Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Titanic the Game. This was sent to me by Spin Master, and this was designed by Daryl Andrews and Adrian Adamescu. Holy ship, we're sinking! The freezing water rushes up relentlessly, forcing you to make difficult choices. Should you gather supplies and star cards to safely set yourself up for the future, or will you stay in the depths to rescue as many passengers as possible to earn heroic points? Let me show you how to play. So in Titanic, it is up to you to save as many passengers as possible from the sinking ship over the course of 9 rounds. You race to earn points from your heroic actions, private objective, and star cards. Be careful, you must make it to the last lifeboat up there before the ship completely floods, or else you are eliminated from scoring. Most points at the end is the winner. So on your turn, you can do actions, and then there's a flooding phase and the stars phase. If we look over here at this character mat, you use these cubes to do actions. Whenever you do an action, you slide it over to the used side. Let's go over what are some of the actions you can do. One action you can do is move. Movement is from room to room on the same location tile, or orthogonally to an adjacent tile, up, down, left, or right. So I could go up here for one movement. These gray walls you cannot go through. After you move, you can do a free pickup action, and you can take one adjacent passenger, lifesaver, action cube, or star token. The component you pick up must be on the same tile adjacent to the room you are in. So I could pick up this gray passenger, and this would go in one of my lifesavers over here. If you don't have a vacant lifesaver, you cannot rescue a passenger. If you pick up a lifesaver, like one marked here, you have to cross it off with this marker, and then lifesavers go here. This way, you can store more passengers. You only have up to 5. If you pick up one of these action cubes, you get to add that to your mat. However, when you place it, it goes on the used side. You cannot use an action cube on the same turn that you pick it up. And then star tokens like this, you pick those up and you save these for the star phase later, if you want to use them to buy cards. Another action you can do for one cube is save passengers. Let's say I was down here, and I'm next to this lifeboat. I can use one action cube to take a passenger from my mat and put it onto the boat. Red passengers are third-class passengers. They're worth 3 points. Gray are second class, worth 2. And green are first class, so they're 1 point. They're ranked that way because third-class passengers were on the bottom of the ship, so they are harder to rescue. When you load passengers onto a ship, not only do you get the points, so I would get 2 points for this gray passenger, but also whatever points are on the space on the boat, you also get. So this gives me 1 more point, so 3 points. I can also choose, if I want, to take one of my available action cubes and spend it to put it on this blue space here. Let me lift it up closer so you can kind of see it better. Yeah, so this action cube goes on here. That would give me 3 more points. So if I did that, it would raise my score up to 6. These lifeboats have to be filled in from front to back. And as you can see, you get more points if you store them on the back spaces. And each one also has a room for 1 action cube if you choose to sacrifice one of those as well. At any time, without using cubes, you can play star cards. For example, this item card, the Renault Automobile, move directly to a top deck tile of your choice. Do not pick up any components. You can just use those at any point, and zoop, you can use it. There are 4 different types of cards. Location cards typically require being somewhere on the ship to score, like for example, the bridge. If you end your turn on top deck number 2, you get 4 points. Scene cards are dramatic things. They're usually a little silly, like winning that ticket. Take 1 passenger of each color from the board, randomize them, guess a color, and blindly select one. If you guess correctly, score 6 points, then return them afterward. There are also people cards, like Ruth DeWitt Boucater. Permanent, score 2 additional points when you load onto the last available space of a lifeboat. Permanent abilities go below, right there, and so you have that perk for the game. And then these item cards, like I mentioned, they're usually powerful items. They don't give you points. However, this axe, for example, lets you move through any walls, a free action. There are also end game scoring cards, like We Are Royalty. You play them face down here. Score 4 points per set of person, location, and item cards in your hand or played cards. So cards you play go here so you can keep track of them at the end. And then there's like some fun ones like My Heart Will Go On. Sing the chorus of My Heart Will Go On, and the other player who joins in scores a point. Players may look up the lyrics, and it's 5 points when you play that. Each character also has a special ability. You can use it any time. Rose, for example, you may draw 1 star card. If you use it, you flip it to this side, and it says here, visit any top deck to refresh the ability. However, abilities cannot be refreshed and then used on the same turn. So if you want to refresh it, you just go to the top of the ship. Other character abilities include Jack. You may pick up 2 components for free. Cal, when you pick up a passenger, you may immediately place it on the iceberg for 1 point. Ruth, score 1 point if you are on a level with no other players at the end of your turn. And the captain, you may move through a wall as a free action. These are all, when you use them, you flip them and have to refresh them later. Now, once you've done your actions for the turn, then we go into the flooding phase. You draw the top card of the flood deck, in this case column 3. You remove that location from the board, and then you check to see if an entire row is completely flooded. Let's pretend it was. Let's say these 4, let's say it flooded on the 4th like that. Now that whole row is flooded, then you have to move the floodline markers up. Any components below the floodline are now inaccessible and are removed from the board. However, if the floodline is not completely up, you can still go into flooded rooms. They become 1 room, and the components that were in there stay in there until this floodline comes up. If you are ever in a situation where you are below the floodline, like let's say this row flooded and Rose was down here, she then goes up to a room above. However, she will lose 3 points for doing that. And you don't get to pick up an item when you move up that way. And then the last thing you can do is spend your star tokens to get star cards, 1 per card. So again, you have these 4 choices. You can spend them and get more cards, like Draw Me. Be in the same room with another player. Make a sketch of that person with their permission. They score 1 point, you score 3. As soon as there is a player definitively in the lowest position on the score track, that player earns the Heart of the Ocean token. Whoever has this heart can take 1 extra action on each turn. At the end of each round, once everyone's taken a turn, you check the track and give this to whoever has the lowest score. Also, whoever reaches 20 points first gets the door. The door lets you be safe, but you can't go on that collapsible boat on the top at the end. So you don't need to escape on the ship, but you are blocked from going here. If a lifeboat is filled with passengers or the floodline passes it, it has to launch. An action cube is not required, it just goes off like that. Near the end of the game, the players will have to board this one up here. And first gets 5 points, second gets 2 points, third gets -4. Except for whoever's at the door, they are exempt. Once the 900 level floods, this launches and that's the end of the game. At the beginning of the game, there are also private objectives that are given out. So for example, if I were Rose, I would get 2 points per action cube at the end of the game. Or if I was Jack, 1 point per red passenger on lifeboats, and so on. So you don't know whose objective is what. And you're going to try to score those for the end. Once there are 9 rounds and all the tiles have been flooded and the lifeboats have been launched, any remaining passengers are discarded, and whoever made it to the lifeboat can score their points from their end game scoring star cards and their private objectives. If you didn't make it to a door or the lifeboat at the end, you're out of the game. And then highest score wins. In the event of a tie, the tied player with the fewest action cubes is the winner. So that's pretty much it. As the water rises, these ships will fill with passengers and launch off, and you're just racing up to save people, collect items, and try to save as many people as possible. And that's the game. So I was pleasantly surprised by this game. I wasn't sure what kind of game to expect from the Titanic, movie board game, but this is pretty fun. It's a little chaotic, which, I guess fits the theme of, the Titanic sinking. The star cards were fun, and some of them were pretty funny with their descriptions. I honestly wish there were more ways to get these beyond just the star tokens, because I felt like they actually really helped spice up the game. The overall flow of the game is fun. It makes you kind of go back and forth in this zigzag, because as the lifeboats launch, you gotta go, okay, I gotta go to this one instead. And you're kind of running back and forth. There's a fun, frantic feel of, okay, grab this stuff and save as many people as you can while you're running up the staircases. I like the feel. Dry erase marker, I wasn't a fan of, though. Having to cross out every time you take a token from a thing, it's like I just wish they made, more tokens to have enough to do that. It just felt like kind of cheap and annoying to constantly do. A minor complaint, but still, I don't like that. Thematically, the game is kind of funny to think about, as it's essentially Jack and Rose just racing to beat each other in points and trying to race for the door, which doesn't make sense with the movie, but is pretty funny. I was surprised that this wasn't a co-op game. I figured it would be, but I actually enjoy the competitive sort of racing nature of this. It's not too complicated. It's fun. Just pick up stuff and send them off and, dick over your opponents. It's got a fun energy. I actually think it's pretty fun.